Hi, what's up everybody? Matt to DawgPost.com here in Lexington, Kroger Field. The Georgia Bulldogs escape Lexington, 13-12 final score. This one was all about how bad Georgia's offense was. They got outrushed by Kentucky. I think they didn't come close to the first downs. Carson Beck, I just think, threw for 160 yards. It's late, so if I get to rambling a little bit, just be patient with me. But bad day for the Georgia offense. The Georgia defense saves the day. We learned a lot about this team. I think we learned that Georgia has a lot of work to do still. Maybe they're not the number one team in the country. They sure didn't play like it out here today. The offense has got to do a lot better. They could barely run the football. I think at the very end of the game, they finally got over the 100-yard mark, but no push up front, nowhere to run. A lot of guys weren't getting open. Tough day for Carson Beck, just looking and finding his receivers. I mean, this one was ugly from the start. I mean, Georgia went into the half down 6-3. They didn't score or didn't get their first lead of the game until early in the fourth quarter. Didn't score a touchdown until early in the fourth quarter. Branson Robinson had to power his way through for a score, but they've got to play better. The coaches have to do better. They have to have a better game plan. The offensive line has to play better. Carson has to play better. The running backs have to make a little more with what they've got. There wasn't a ton of room to run, but you still have to be creative and turn things, from nothing into something. I thought the receivers have got to do a better job creating separation, making those big plays, but I think you do have to give Kentucky a lot of credit. Nobody gave them a shot in this game. Nobody. I didn't. I thought this should have been a blowout. I still think Georgia's a much better team than Kentucky, but they played a tough physical game. That doesn't mean they're a tough physical team, but Kirby Smart did say this week, hey, this is a tough physical team. I didn't believe him. Because I didn't see it out of this Kentucky team the first 2 weeks, but they stepped up. I don't know what they did at practice, but they did improve. And I thought their offensive line that struggled all game long against South Carolina did a really good job. Now, Georgia did come in and make some plays on Brock Vandagriff. I think they got him to the ground several times. A big sack fumble that led to Georgia's first points. The defense set them up perfectly for a score, and they still settled for a field goal. It was just a bad day for the offense. And I tell you what, it's not going to get any easier. If they had trouble running against Kentucky, they're going to have trouble running the ball against a lot of other teams, but this is not going to be the last team that gives Georgia trouble on the ground. And we just haven't seen those breakout long, electric, explosive runs. We didn't see much explosiveness at all from the Georgia defense. I'm trying to maneuver my head so you don't see the lights. A lot of lights out here. I get it. But Georgia's got to turn the lights on a little earlier. They were sleepwalking offensively through this game, and I don't know if it was just too much of a vanilla game plan or if the guys just didn't execute and they just weren't winning their one-on-one matchups. Maybe it's a little bit of both, but Mike Bobo, got to go back to the drawing board, buddy. You can't be throwing that out there. It just didn't seem creative. The running plays, a lot of them, I've got to go back and watch. The game ended 5 minutes ago. But it seemed like there was a lot of slow developing plays that just never got started and never got going. And it was not cohesive. There was no chemistry on Georgia's offense today. I thought Kentucky got to Carson Beck a little more than I thought they would today. They made him kind of scramble and run around and improvise, and that's not what he does well. He stands in the pocket and can make plays with his arm when guys are open, but guys weren't really getting open for him today, so everyone's got to get better. This is not just on Mike Bobo, not just on Carson Beck. The offensive line has to play better. Carson's got to play better. But let's talk about the defense real quick, because a lot of guys stepped up. Tyrion Ingrams-Dawkins made play after play. He was very good, almost unblockable for, I think, the whole second quarter was. But Raylan Wilson came in on a blitz and forced a fumble that Damon Wilson picked up. I mean, the defense did their job. Now, Kentucky, I think, ran for 170, maybe 180 yards. Someone can let me know in the comment section below. I don't have final stats. I just ran out here. But I thought Kentucky ran the ball better than Georgia. They moved the ball better than Georgia. If you just looked at the box score, Team A, Team B, without looking at the score at the top, you'd say Team B or whatever, Kentucky, probably played better and won the game. If you just look at the amount of rushing yards, first downs, total yards. Georgia continued to shoot themselves in the foot with penalties too. Penalties almost cost them this game. I mean, this was a full full quarter rock fight. This was not a slugfest. This was a defensive game. Both offenses struggled to do much, but at the end of the day, Georgia's defense made enough stops. They could still play better, but they saved the day tonight, and they made a lot of plays and gave Georgia's offense every opportunity. They just couldn't get it done. Brett Thorson, I thought, did a nice job punting, but they've got to get better. They've got to get more explosive. They didn't get much at all from Nate Frazier and Branson Robinson other than that touchdown. Branson Robinson, it looks like he's running with cement blocks underneath his shoes. It's just not there. There's no explosiveness. There's no change of direction. There's no quickness. Trevor Etienne gave them some of that today, but it wasn't enough. He's got to do more. There just wasn't a ton of push. I mean, these guys were getting hit in the backfield, not the line of scrimmage. There were no runs where no one's touching them for 6-7 yards, and then they break a tackle or two, fall forward for another 3 or 4. It wasn't like that. I thought Kentucky played really sound gap assignment football. They tackled well. There was not a lot of broken tackles by the Georgia running backs and receivers. And you could make the case, sorry, with the lights. I'd move it, but they'd be over here. If I'm over here, I can't win. I can't win. Georgia won today. They had to earn it. They had to earn every play, every yard. Nothing was given to them. Again, you have to tip your hat to Kentucky, but this is not a good Kentucky team. Let's not get it twisted. Just because they found a way to hang in with Georgia for 4 quarters, that's still not a good team. There's too much talent, too many resources. They're too deep. They've got better players. They've got better coaches. They should have won this game by a lot more than that. The offense, there's no excuse for how they played. And they got to get back to the drawing board, figure something else out, figure out some explosives. But you could make the case Georgia lost the battle in the trenches tonight, at least their offensive line. I thought Kentucky's defensive line, Georgia won the game. So I'm being somewhat nitpicky, but everyone's got to play better. And you're thinking, there are certain points in this game where, okay, this is where Brock Bowers would come up and make 2-3 big catches. They don't have that. I think David Pollack tweeted they've got a lot of good players on offense. How many great players does Georgia have on this offense? Carson Beck was not great today. The offensive line was not great today. No one else really stood out and played great or looked great. And they're going to be in some games where they have to possibly win a shootout. And they got to go back to the drawing board if that's the case. If the defense played any worse, they lose this game. Because the offense was just struggling so much. And too many early drives where they're not even moving the football, and it's maybe get 1 first down and a punt, or a 3 and out and a punt. There were not a ton of long sustaining drives, especially through the air. Now Carson did make some throws down the stretch that they really needed, but still too many penalties in this one. Again, I don't have the final stats in front of me as I again try to keep the lights out. I really appreciate y'all staying with me, but frustrating game, an ugly game, but Georgia won, and they can learn a lot from this game. We've talked about them trying to fight through some adversity. When were they going to have it? They got it tonight. They got it in the first quarter, second quarter. They got it all game until the very end. It took all 4 quarters for Georgia to hang on and win this game, but they made enough plays down the stretch. It shouldn't have taken down the stretch. It shouldn't have taken them the end of the 4th quarter to make enough plays to where they win the game. This is not a good Kentucky team. They played hard, and they gave it everything they had, and they usually do when Georgia plays up here. It was a nice crowd. It wasn't a great crowd. The crowd, I don't think, had much to do with Georgia's play on offense. They just didn't execute, and they didn't bully their opponent in the trenches. They did not play to their standard, and listen, it's a long season. You're not going to blow out everyone, but there were shades of 2022 Missouri, although I think that Missouri team is better than this Kentucky team. Georgia got into a little bit of a fist fight with a team that they should have beaten up early in the game, but those little cats, man, they stayed in and they kept fighting. They made Georgia earn everything in this game. If you're a Georgia fan, you're just glad they won. They could have lost this game. There's no doubt about it, and you could have put almost the entire blame on the offense. The defense did their job. They made enough stops. They made enough plays. Again, they didn't give up a touchdown for the 4th straight game. 4 straight games, the Georgia defense has not given up a touchdown dating back to the Orange Bowl shellacking they gave Florida State. This is not a shellacking. This was a win that it was a hard-fought, earned SEC win on the road. They're better than that. Georgia's much better than what they showed out here today. They got the job done. It wasn't great. It was not a fun game for Georgia fans to watch, but they won the game. That's all that needs to happen, but they've got a lot to work on over the next 2 weeks, because if they play like that and the offense doesn't get better soon, they could absolutely lose into Tuscaloosa. They could lose to Ole Miss. They could lose to Texas. So they got to get it going. Maybe this is the wake-up call they needed. We'll see. But 13-12, ugly game for the Georgia offense. The defense saves them up here in Kentucky, but they got the job done by 1 point, 13-12. Rough win on the road, but they got it done. Now you got two options. Do you just wipe this clean, start fresh, start anew, head forward and just focus on Alabama, or do you take a lot from this game and say, hey, Georgia can lose here, and here, right? This is how Georgia can lose. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of other opposing coaches who are looking at this game saying, okay, Kentucky showed us a little bit. Kentucky laid out somewhat of a blueprint. I don't know. You can make that case, I guess, if you want. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Ugly win, but a win's a win. Georgia fans are going to like it. It was not pretty. They've got a lot to work on, but they escaped with a win. 13-12. Thanks for watching, and you can read everything more about this game over on Dawg Post. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.